Okay everybody, here I am again today with another video to pop up inside my subscribers video feeds section. So this is going to be my movie soundtrack albums for anybody interested in such things. I know that Dave is really into this DJ Thunder the 70s, into soundtrack albums. Most of what I collect is horror and science fiction, but it's not just that stuff, it's all other kinds of stuff, and a little bit of everything. Also TV albums, soundtracks, things from TV shows, movies. Here we go. This is probably the latest one I got. It's a brand new release, more or less, of Rosemarys Baby. And I've shown some of these in other videos, so you might think they look pretty familiar in some cases. I'll show you the vinyl of this. Somebody showed this album online, I think, and one side was blue, and I think bluish, and one side was red. The one that I have is neither. It's clear vinyl, and I like the clear very much. I always say whenever talking about this album that the movie Rosemary's Baby is one of the few movies, I think, where you can say it's just about perfect, in my opinion. You know, because movies, there's always a little something you can find. Nothing's perfect. But Rosemary's Baby is one of the many movies that I can think of, or I said many when I probably meant to say few movies that I can think of. That's kind of perfect, just about. Okay, look at this one. Doesn't belong here. I showed this one several times, different videos. The Odd Couple Sings, an album I was looking for a long time. Jack Klugman and Tony Randall singing, which is really a laugh riot, especially Jack Klugman trying to sing. And they sing Carly Simon's "You're So Vain," which is the highlight of this album. Great old sitcom. And I got this. The cellophane is still on it, and it was sealed when I got it, and I had to split it. Got it off eBay, Amazon, eBay, same thing. This is a soundtrack to the Little Rascals, Our Gang comedy shorts of the 30s, and basically this is kind of outdated by today's standards. This isn't the music really; it's just dialogue for the movies, which you know, it's mostly for a collector's piece that I have this. This is the King of Comedy, Martin Scorsese film with Robert De Niro and Jerry Lewis. 1982, John Carpenter's The Thing. You know, it's funny that I'm a fan of old movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s mostly. And it's very, very rare that I condone remakes, but I really love this remake. I would call this one of the better revampings of an older movie. This is the sequel to American Graffiti called More American Graffiti. This is sealed. Never opened. Eventually I'm going to play it. That time hasn't come yet. I just got this last month for $5, I think it was. More American Graffiti is not a great movie, unlike the first one, American Graffiti. But More American Graffiti, the sequel, it has some good moments in it. This is the soundtrack to Blacula, a vampire film starring William Marshall. It was really good as the title character. This is the original, in pretty darn good shape. I've seen this re-released, which was a surprise. But that's the original copy. The Sound of Music, Julie Andrews. Nope, it's not the new version with Carrie Underwood. But in my opinion, Carrie Underwood ain't bad to look at. Here's the movie Fame from 1980. Have the soundtrack album to The Graduate, Dustin Hoffman's big start. I have 2 copies of this album. First one here is this one. It's the second in the Apes films, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. And this was in great shape. I remember finding this, I think in the 1980s sometime, and I looked for this for a long time. This was before you had the internet, and I found one in really nice shape. And then about 2 years ago, I found this one, which is still sealed. And it's a little different. It's funny because this one here has a border on it, a white border, which I know is the original. This one here does not. It's a little different, the sealed one, but to my knowledge, they've never repressed these, so my nephew Alex surprised me mightily with this album from my favorite old horror movie series, Universal Monsters, Bride of Frankenstein. And I was really surprised when he got me this. I had seen it online and I was thinking of getting it, and he got it for me, and it was quite a surprise. And it's worth showing the vinyl. I know a lot of people can't stand the sound of opening the flap. Sorry. But it's worth showing what's inside here. I mean, first you get a poster, a copy of the original insert poster. And on you people who are into it, on the back you've got nice photos. And then the record itself is pressed on creepy, ghoulish green vinyl. And you got the Frankenstein monster on the one side, and then you got the bride on the second side. And quite a nice find. I mean, there was a compact disc that was put out of this movie. Again, I think it was the 1980s, maybe 90s, early 90s. And I have that on compact disc, and I think all they really did for this was take the same recording from that. I could be wrong. I mean, it's the same record, but whether it's right off the disc, I don't know. I'm saying it's the same source, I think. It's not the original soundtrack in the sense it's kind of recreated. So that's that. Okay, I showed this in another video. Halloween 2 soundtrack album. I have to say Halloween 2 from 1981, not to be confused with the remake from 2000 and something. Okay, before I talked about one of the very few movies, Rosemary's Baby, that I think is close to perfect. And here's another one that I think is close to perfect. A perfect movie. I love this film. The Sting. Robert Redford, Paul Newman, Robert Shaw, Charles Durning. Great movie. Now for a not so great movie. Airport, 1975. I don't know why. I got this mostly as a piece, just to have it. I like Charlton Heston. He's one of my movie heroes, and this is one of his movies. Here's American Graffiti. This is the first film, another classic film that I call one of the few perfect movies, or close to it. Of course, this opens up, and I'm not going to take it out. It opens up to reveal the whole waitress standing there, you know. But you get the idea, right? Great soundtrack. I got some James Bond stuff here and there. There's Thunderball, Sean Connery movie. Thunderball, not one of my favorites of the early Sean Connery movies, not at all. I like the title song by Tom Jones, but I much prefer the other Connery movies to this. It's a little too long and too much underwater footage, swimming around. Charlton Heston, Will Penny, Western, pretty darn good too. Joan Hackett, Donald Pleasance, Lee Majors. It says here, introducing Lee Majors, $6 Million Man. Wonder if that's literally his first movie. Okay, gotta put this over here. I don't know how this got in here. Okay, recently I got these 2 albums, Television's Greatest Hits. I have mixed feelings on this album, mainly because some of them sound like they're right from the original TV programs, but some of them are recreated. I guess for licensing reasons, they're not taken right off the way you know hearing them on the TV show. And you got Volume 2. And there you go. Talk about perfect movies. I found 3 here. This is, I've said this before, even though I'm a horror movie fan and science fiction fan mainly, one of my absolute favorite movies, in fact, if somebody asks me, what do you think is the best movie ever made? It's always a hard question to ask, but I always pick this. Ben-Hur, William Wyler. It's a Charlton Heston Academy Award-winning movie. It's a perfect movie. It's an epic. They just don't make them like that anymore, and there's something for everybody in here, I think. It's got everything. A story of friendship, falling out, revenge, hope, spirituality. It's got everything in it. Here's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This is the 1978 remake. They made so many versions of this, and you only needed really the original. And this one. I actually like this one. This is another one that I kind of like a little better than the original, which is very rare for me. Anybody who knows me and my movie tastes, I always despise remakes for the most part. But I'm talking about later remakes, like 1980s and up, 90s. A lot of them, less said the better. Here's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. You got, again, this is the first teaming of Paul Newman with Robert Redford. I have another James Bond album, The Spy Who Loved Me. This is got mixed feelings among Bond fans. It's one of my all-time favorite James Bond movies. And the reason is because it's the first James Bond movie that I saw in the theaters. I was 15. It's the first James Bond movie I saw, period. I hadn't seen any of the Connery ones yet. So I love this movie. And this is, look at it, Shrink and the hype sticker on it. Carly Simons, nobody does it better. And the character here of Jaws in here, the guy with the steel teeth, being a horror fan, that was appealing. So, definitely my favorite Roger Moore James Bond film. I got The Exorcist. So, boy, you know, it doesn't hold up as far as, to me, the scary way it was in the 70s. I mean, so many imitations and knockoffs of this movie over the years, you know? And spoofs and... Okay, here we go. One of my personal favorite movies, Westworld. Oh, God, I love this movie. And the soundtrack is pretty cool, too, by Fred Karlin. They're supposed to remake this movie. Please don't ever do it. There were rumors many years ago that Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to play Yul Brynner's role as the gunslinger. Well, he's not going to do it anymore, but who's going to do it? I have no idea. Will Smith? Johnny Depp? I don't know. Alright, James Caan in Rollerball. This is a reissue. And the reason I know it's a reissue, the back cover is cool, because it's got the barcode on it. Not a big fan of the movie, but I don't know, the album was like really cheap, and it's nice looking, like, you know, I like 70s science fiction stuff. Here's Charles Bronson in Death Wish 2. The reason I have this is, well, I like the whole series. Death Wish 2, Death Wish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think they only made 5. But it's got the original soundtrack by Jimmy Page. This is one of my favorite 80s comedies, The Lonely Guy with Steve Martin. It's really a piss of that movie, I think. I think it's funny. This is a still sealed copy of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson. Another great movie. Award-winning movie. This beat Jaws out at the Oscars, which it's a love-hate thing, because I mean Jaws I love Cuckoo's Nest too, but it's an Al Pacino movie, Sea of Love from 1989. Got the soundtrack to this. And as you know, I'm a big Planet of the Apes fan, and there's the first movie, Planet of the Apes, and a really like mint conditioned album of the soundtrack. So, I don't know if this qualifies, but it's Abbott and Costello who's on first, and it's Radiola. I think it's a radio shows. Them doing different radio acts. Little nostalgia. Goes a long way. Here's Deliverance. Another good movie. Probably, dare I say, why am I forgetting people's names, man? Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds, best movie. Dress to Kill. 1980 suspense film. Starring Angie Dickinson, Michael Caine. I really like this movie. There's a cellophane on this. It's like brand new, the cover, but the album was scratched up. But I figured, again, hey, Robert Z, my buddy, how you doing, man? How's Sylvia doing? You still going to those thrift stores to get old beat-up albums? Well, let me tell you something. I'm going to Frankenstein this album. If I ever can find a good copy and the cover's like shit, I'm going to put the good album inside this really spiffy cover. Classic King Kong from 1933. That 2005 Peter Jackson movie sucked. Too much CGI, cartoony stuff. But then again, don't go by me, because I'm not even a big fan of the Little Kong animated figure that much. I kind of, believe it or not, I prefer the Japanese monsters in the suits. And that's only because, as funny as they may look, at least they're really actors standing there doing something. 2001 A Space Odyssey. Stanley Kubrick. Okay, I got a funny story to go with this one. Well, funny now, not at the time. Jaws, one of the best movies ever made. Another perfect movie. This one, I could use a slight upgrade on. I mean, this is pretty damn good, but, you know, us guys out there, I mean, a little ring wear here, you know, so I can get this without the ring wear, I'll take that. But, my story about Jaws is that I had the album, the original album. This is a replacement copy when I was a kid. And my sister was very much into disco dancing, and she used to go practice her disco dancing down in our basement. And one time, her and my cousin, who used to dance together, this is right around Saturday Night Fever craze, the Bee Gees, they got the idea of taking the album out of my Jaws album and kind of placing the record over the top of a lamp to kind of like dim the lights for like the discotheque effect. And of course it warped my album. I never forgot that. But, you know, I got it back, so it's not a problem. Okay, this is a movie called Sunshine, which I don't know why I picked this up. I love this song, Sunshine on My Shoulder, by John Denver. The guy, Cliff D. Young, sings a version of it here. And this was a made-for-TV movie from, I think, 73. But I like this version of the song. And I have memories of watching this with my mother. I was just like about 11 years old. We watched it together, and it was a heart-tugging movie with my mother. It's a memory with my mom, so I bought it. One of my favorite TV series of all time. Oh, jeez, dear meathead, huh? Oh, come on there, little girl. Archie. All in the Family. And another copy that's sealed. It's never been opened. I found about 3 or 4 copies in the wild of this. Never been opened before. It's sealed. I mean, I don't even know if I want to open this one. You know, Robert Z has a thread about you keep your albums sealed or open. And some of them I will keep sealed. Last album I have here is the Golden Age of Comedy. Golden Age Hollywood Comedy, Laurel and Hardy. This is the same kind of deal as the Little Rascals album that I showed before, where it's basically, I think, just like the audio talking, you know, from the shorts, put right on a record. It's not music. Just it's like, you know, listening to the DVD sound. Well, anyway, that's it. And I'm always looking for soundtracks. And thanks a lot, folks, for watching, as always. And will there be any more videos popping up in your video feed today from me? I'll take a break.